Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today, we re-diving into a story that feels like it's been ripped straight from a horror movie. But I assure you, it's all too real. This is the unsettling tale of the farmhouse that seemed to cry out for help. A mystery that unfolded in the quiet English countryside and baffled investigators for years. It all began in September 1984. A man named Ken Webster, a teacher, moved into an old stone cottage called Meadow Cottage in the small village of Dodleston, Cheshire. He and his girlfriend, Debbie, were looking for a peaceful life, a break from the city. But the house had other plans. The strange occurrences started subtly. Piles of cat food tins would appear stacked in pyramids overnight. Mysterious puddles of water would form on the floor with no explanation. It was weird, for sure, but they initially dismissed it as quirky, old house stuff. Things took a truly bizarre turn when Ken brought a computer into the cottage. This wasn't just any computer. It was a BBC Micro, a machine loaned to him from the school where he taught. One day, Ken and Debbie found a strange message on the screen. It was written in a kind of old-fashioned, almost poetic English. The message read, "True are the nightmares of a person that fears. Safe are the bodies of the silent world." It was signed Lucas. At first, they thought it was a prank. Maybe a student had hacked the computer, or a friend was playing a joke. But the messages kept coming. Lucas claimed to be a man who had lived in that very house, but in the 16th century, he communicated through the computer, describing his life, his family, and his world from over 400 years ago. He was confused by the box of light, the computer, but seemed compelled to use it. Ken, intrigued and a little spooked, decided to write back. And so began one of the strangest conversations in history. A digital dialogue across a 4-century gap. Lucas would leave messages, and Ken would reply. Lucas talked about King Henry VIII, the religious turmoil of his time, and his concerns for his family. His language was consistently archaic, filled with words and phrases from the Tudor period that Ken had to look up. But Lucas wasn't the only one communicating. Soon, other entities started leaving messages. One claimed to be from the year 2109. This future entity explained that they were observing Ken and Lucas as part of an experiment. They referred to Ken and Lucas as friends and warned them of the dangers of their communication. They said that messing with time, even just by talking, could have unforeseen consequences. The story gets even stranger. The messages would often appear when the computer was completely unplugged from the wall. Experts from the BBC and psychic research societies examined the computer and the cottage. They couldn't find any evidence of a hoax. There were no hidden transmitters, no signs of tampering. The messages were just appearing. The house itself seemed to be the conduit. Neighbors and previous tenants confirmed the cottage had a reputation. People spoke of strange feelings, disembodied footsteps, and objects moving on their own. It seemed the cottage, later renamed Brook Cottage, had always been a place of unusual energy. The phenomena eventually stopped as abruptly as they had begun. After about 2 years, the messages ceased, and the house fell silent once more. Ken Webster documented the entire experience in a book called The Vertical Plane. To this day, no one has been able to definitively explain what happened. Was it an elaborate, technically impossible hoax? Was it a genuine case of communication across time? Or was it a complex psychological event? A shared folie à deux between Ken and Debbie, influenced by the house's strange atmosphere. The farmhouse that called for help remains one of modern history's most compelling and unanswered mysteries. What do you think happened? Let me know your theories in the comments below. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive into the unexplained. If you enjoyed this story, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more mysteries. We'll see you in the next video. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into a case that's as bizarre as it is chilling. The case of the smiling shadow. It's a story that starts on a quiet, tree-lined street and ends with a mystery that still baffles investigators and amateur sleuths alike. Our story begins in the sleepy town of Havenwood. Life was predictable, almost idyllic. That is, until the summer of 2017. It started with small, strange occurrences. A garden gnome moved from one yard to another overnight. A single, pristine white rose left on a doorstep. Residents brushed it off as harmless pranks. But then, the shadows began to appear. Not just any shadows, these were different. People started reporting seeing a fleeting figure. A dark silhouette that seemed to smile just before it vanished into the night. The first person to officially report it was a retired librarian named Eleanor Vance. She was an early riser, and one morning, while making her coffee, she saw it standing across the street under a streetlight that was flickering on and off. She described it as a tall, slender shadow. But what unnerved her the most was the distinct, crescent-shaped smile that seemed to glow faintly within the darkness. By the time she blinked, it was gone. Police were skeptical, of course. A smiling shadow. It sounded like something out of a fantasy novel. They logged her report but didn't take it too seriously. But then, more reports started flooding in. A teenager walking his dog saw it dart between houses. A couple driving home late at night swore it ran across the road in front of their car, moving with an unnatural speed. Each witness described the same thing, a dark, human-like shape and that unsettling ear-to-ear grin. The town's unease turned to genuine fear when things escalated. Small personal items began to disappear from homes, only to reappear in strange places. A wedding photo from one house would be found sitting on the kitchen counter of another, 3 blocks away. A child's favorite toy would vanish from their bedroom and be discovered hanging from a tree branch in the park. There was never any sign of forced entry. It was as if the smiling shadow could simply walk through walls. The local police department, now overwhelmed, brought in outside help. They set up surveillance cameras, increased patrols, and even organized neighborhood watch groups. They analyzed footage for hours, but found nothing. The shadow was like a ghost, always one step ahead, never caught on camera. Never leaving a trace for the objects it moved and the growing sense of dread it left behind. The mystery reached its peak one October night. The entire town experienced a brief, unexplained power outage that lasted exactly 3 minutes. When the lights came back on, every single front door in Havenwood was standing wide open. Nothing was stolen, no one was harmed, but the message was clear. The smiling shadow had been everywhere, all at once. The collective gasp of a town realizing its vulnerability was almost audible. And then, just as suddenly as it began, it stopped. The smiling shadow was gone. No more sightings, no more misplaced items, no more open doors. It simply vanished, leaving behind a town forever changed, and a mystery that has no logical explanation. Was it a masterful prankster with an incredible talent for stealth and theatrics? A case of mass hysteria that took on a life of its own? Or was it something else entirely, something that defies explanation? Years later, the people of Havenwood still talk about it in hushed tones. New residents are told the story of the smiling shadow as a local legend. But for those who lived through it, it was all too real. To this day, the case remains open, a strange and unsolved file, collecting dust. What do you think happened? Let me know your theories in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoy a good mystery, make sure to like and subscribe for more. See you next time. Have you ever heard of Father Gabriele Amorth? For over 30 years, he wasn't just a priest. He was the chief exorcist of the Vatican. Yes, you heard that right. An official exorcist, appointed to confront what he believed were forces of pure evil. His story isn't just a spooky tale. It's a fascinating look into a world that most of us only see in movies. Born in Modena, Italy, in 1925, Gabriele Amorth lived a life that was anything but ordinary. Before he ever donned his priestly robes, he was a young soldier. Fighting in the Italian resistance during World War II, he was decorated for his bravery, a trait that would define his entire career. After the war, he studied law and then found his true calling in the priesthood. Being ordained in 1954, for many years, he served in various roles within the church. But it was in 1986 that his life took a dramatic turn. Cardinal Ugo Poletti, the Vicar General of Rome, asked him to apprentice under the renowned exorcist Father Candido Amantini. Father Amorth was hesitant at first, but he accepted the role, stepping into a world of spiritual warfare that few can even imagine. When Father Amantine passed away, Father Amorth inherited his mantle, becoming Rome's chief exorcist. Over the next 3 decades, he claimed to have performed tens of thousands of exorcisms. He wasn't your typical, quiet priest. Father Amorth was outspoken, often controversial, and incredibly dedicated. He wrote books, gave interviews, then founded the International Association of Exorcists. In 1990, to train other priests and share knowledge, he wanted to bring the ministry of exorcism out of the shadows and back into the mainstream practice of the Catholic Church. He believed that genuine demonic possession was rare, but that demonic influence or oppression was far more common. He often said that many people who came to him were suffering from psychological or psychiatric issues, and he was careful to work with doctors to distinguish between the two. But for those rare cases, he was unwavering. He described encounters with inexplicable phenomena, people speaking ancient languages they'd never learned, displaying superhuman strength or knowing hidden secrets about his own life. Father Amorth faced these encounters not with fear, but with faith, prayer, and a surprising amount of humor. He famously said that the devil is afraid of holy people, but he's terrified of jokes. He believed that laughter and joy were powerful weapons against darkness. He often talked about the simple things that could protect people: prayer, confession, and living a good life. He wasn't just fighting demons. He was trying to bring people back to a life of faith and hope. His most famous case, which partly inspired the movie The Pope's Exorcist, was a young Italian woman in 1997. He described a grueling series of sessions where he battled what he believed was a powerful demonic entity. The story is intense, filled with dramatic moments that sound like they're straight out of a Hollywood script. But for him, it was just another day at the office. Father Gabriele Amorth passed away in 2016 at the age of 91, but his legacy is more powerful than ever. He forced a modern world to confront an ancient belief, reminding us that there are mysteries that science can't always explain. Whether you believe in the supernatural or not, his life story is a testament to unwavering conviction and a lifelong battle against the unseen. It's a powerful reminder that sometimes the biggest fights are the ones fought in the shadows. Thanks for watching. If you found this story as fascinating as I did, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more deep dives into incredible lives. See you next time. Have you ever walked past an old building and just gotten a weird vibe? Like the walls themselves hold secrets? Well, today we're heading to Brooklyn, New York, to a specific apartment building that has a story so chilling it's become a local legend. we're talking about a place they call the Cursed Apartment. Now, this isn't some grand, Gothic mansion. It's a regular-looking brownstone, the kind you see all over Brooklyn. But one apartment, Unit 4B, has a history that's anything but ordinary. The story starts back in the 1970s. A young artist, let's call him Leo, moved in. He was full of dreams, ready to take the New York art scene by storm. His friends said he was vibrant, always sketching, always creating. But soon after moving into 4B, Leo changed. He became withdrawn and paranoid. He complained about strange noises at night, scratching sounds from inside the walls, whispers that seemed to come from nowhere. He started painting bizarre, unsettling images that were a complete departure from his usual style. His friends grew worried, but he pushed them all away. Then, one day, he just vanished. He left behind a single, terrifying painting of a shadowy figure with hollow eyes, staring out from the canvas. Leo was never seen again. After that, the apartment sat empty for a few years. People in the building were already spooked. Then, in the early 80s, a young couple, Sarah and Tom, decided to rent it. They loved the location, and the price was a steal. They dismissed the stories about the artist as just a sad, local tale. For the first few months, everything was perfect. They were happy, in love, and building a life together. But the curse of 4B, it seems, doesn't stay quiet for long. Sarah started having vivid nightmares, always set within the apartment. In her dreams, the walls would close in and she'd hear the same whispers Leo had described. Tom became incredibly jealous and possessive, accusing Sarah of things that made no sense. Their loving home turned into a place of constant arguments and suspicion. One night, after a particularly bad fight, Tom packed a bag and left. Sarah stayed, determined not to be driven out. But the feeling of being watched, the constant unease, it wore her down. She eventually moved out, telling the landlord the place had a heavy energy she couldn't live with. The legend just kept growing. Through the 90s and 2000s, anyone who lived in apartment 4B for more than a few months experienced a string of misfortunes. We're talking about sudden job losses, inexplicable illnesses, and relationships falling apart in the most dramatic ways. It was like a dark cloud hung over that specific unit. One tenant, a finance guy, lost his entire fortune in a market crash just weeks after moving in. Another, a writer, developed a severe case of writer's block and spiraled into depression. The strange thing is, the rest of the building seems totally normal. Residents in 4A and 4C, right next door, have lived there for decades without any issues. They just know not to talk about 4B. The landlord has tried everything: renovations, bringing in experts to cleanse the space, even drastically lowering the rent, but nothing works. The apartment has been vacant for the last 5 years. So what is it about this one apartment? Is it built on some ancient, disturbed ground? Is the spirit of the lost artist, Leo, still trapped there? Or is it all just a series of tragic coincidences, amplified by fear and superstition? The cursed apartment of Brooklyn remains a mystery. The doors are locked, the windows are dark. But for those who know the story, it's impossible to walk by without feeling a little shiver down your spine, wondering what secrets are still hiding inside those walls. What do you guys think? Is it a genuine curse or just a spooky story? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this mystery, make sure to like and subscribe for more. See you next time. Have you ever heard of the Devil's Child of West Virginia? It's a story that has been whispered across the mountains for over 150 years. A chilling piece of local folklore that blurs the line between reality and the supernatural. Our story begins in the rugged, isolated hills of Braxton County, Way back in 1878, in a small, remote cabin, a woman named Mrs. Crawford was about to give birth. Her husband, Jacob, was a deeply religious man, but also known for his superstitions. As the story goes, Jacob was terrified that his wife might not survive childbirth. In a moment of sheer desperation, he made a pact. A desperate prayer that some say was directed not to heaven, but somewhere else. He supposedly declared, "I would rather the devil have this child than for my wife to die. Be careful what you wish for." Mrs. Crawford survived the birth, but the baby was different. The local midwife, who assisted with the delivery, was horrified. The newborn boy was said to have long, pointed ears, a flattened, almost snout-like nose, and eyes that glowed with an eerie, unnatural light. His skin was described as leathery, and his cries sounded more like the growl of an animal than a human infant. Word spread like wildfire through the small community. People were terrified. They called him the Devil's Child, a living embodiment of his father's unholy bargain. The family was ostracized, their home becoming a place of fear and morbid curiosity. Whispers and rumors filled the air. Some claimed the child could speak in tongues, while others swore they saw him crawl up walls like a spider. The Crawfords were utterly alone, trapped with a child that their neighbors believed to be a monster. Unable to bear the shame and fear, Jacob and his wife made a heartbreaking decision. They couldn't bring themselves to harm the child, but they couldn't live with him either. According to the legend, they abandoned the baby in the dense, unforgiving woods of Holly Gray Park, leaving his fate to nature. And that's where the story takes another dark turn. 4 years afterward, local residents reported strange occurrences. They heard unnatural cries echoing from the forest at night. Hunters spoke of a small, elusive creature moving through the underbrush, something that was neither human nor animal. They found strange three-toed tracks near creeks and heard an unsettling, guttural laugh that would send shivers down their spines. The legend of the Devil's Child grew, transforming from a family tragedy into a local bogeyman story. He was blamed for missing livestock and other unexplained events. To this day, the story of the Devil's Child is a staple of West Virginia folklore. Some believe the child survived, growing up wild in the mountains, a feral creature forever haunting the woods of Braxton County. Others think it's a tragic story of a child born with severe birth defects, who became the victim of fear and superstition in a time before modern medicine could provide answers. What do you think really happened? Was it a supernatural event, a curse brought on by a desperate father's words? Or was it a sad tale of ignorance and fear? The woods of West Virginia keep their secrets well, and the legend of the Devil's Child lives on. A chilling reminder of a story that continues to haunt the mountains. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this dive into folklore, don't forget to like and subscribe for more strange tales.